Sunspots, Chapter 2, Part 2.
Dr. Borealis, is what you say true?
The ruler asked calmly.
Is this untested and unproven antidote necessary to save my life? And must be administered within the day?
Completely. However, it is not untested entirely. I have run dozens, if not hundreds of scenarios using a magical scan of alicorn biology, provided by our own medical department. I requested it 6 months ago for research purposes into this matter.
What are the risks involved with the procedure?
An allergic reaction is expected, as is a heightened immune response. Corrective action must be taken within 1 hour to prevent death. Those symptoms will occur at a later time if the process is allowed to run its course regardless.
How do you know all of this? Your records are clean, but how do you know of this disease so acutely?
I discovered it. A slight cough left Celestia's muzzle, the alicorn seizing the spell with a frown.
Ew. What?
Borealis let out a huff, shaking his head as the spell wore off. It is from the Dragonlands, and is a naturally occurring organism. Heavily resilient to heat and magic, as it usually is a dragon ailment. I'd be more than happy to explain that to you when you aren't in grave danger.
I hardly feel...
Celestia's sides began to spasm, the alicorn's eyes widening in horror as pain shot through her lungs with every breath, a giant vice seeming to squeeze her ribs. Late stage, we didn't have hours at all, Borealis hissed, injecting the mixed syringe into Celestia's shoulder quickly. The contents emptied with a soft hiss. We don't have much time. You, Doctor, your methods have been ineffective in curing it, yes? Barely holding it at bay, you said?
Yes, the spells and medication should still be active, though. There are no other options other than ventilation. What do you...
Borealis looked over as an alabaster hoof wrapped around his forelimb, locking it with a vice-like grip. 2 horrified violet eyes met his, and the hippogriff nodded. All right, guards, you all will want to follow me. I thought I had more time, and I doubt the materials I brought will be sufficient. Borealis barked, retrieving a small crystal from his bag. He placed it on the floor and tapped it. The hippogriff stood back as a portal snapped into existence. The blue edges wreathed in soft, similarly colored flame. Please feel free to follow me through. I need to get her to my medical station. We don't have long. Can you two lift her? He saw them pause, gesturing to the pony doctor. You stay here. This is out of your expertise. Please prepare emergency life support for her. That's the final option if I fail. 2 unicorn guards nodded, carefully levitating the princess through the portal as she nodded at them. 4 legionnaires now appeared from the side halls to follow them through. Good. You may be of use as well to restrain her, Borealis mused, hefting his medical bags through the portal. On the other side was a simple but rather large stone room, lit with soft white crystal lights. Lining the walls were all sorts of medical devices and laboratory equipment. It ranged from centrifuges to chemistry sets and even a small terrarium. Slightly offset against the wall of the room was a medical cot and bench, the square area sealed off with thick plastic, providing a fairly sterile atmosphere as the group entered. A soft mist covered them, the antiseptic blowing about before the guards lowered Celestia onto the large medical cot. Injecting another dose of booster into the princess, Borealis gestured to the guards. Do you mind standing back a bit? I'll need space to work. I don't expect you to leave her sight, but this is going to be tricky. Seeing Celestia nod frantically, the legionnaires and guards stepped outside the clean room, leaving Borealis room to work. Much better. Alright, Celestia, I need you to keep breathing as steadily as you can. I need you to inhale this too, even a bit. Dusting a purple powder over her nose, Borealis nodded as the alicorn drew in some of it, a hacking cough making her whole body shiver. Good, enough. Now I need to know how bad the pain is, he instructed. I have to get this dosage right, at least in a general sense. Too little and the affection will remain and come back twice as fierce, but too much may send you further into shock if a lesser dose would suffice. Now, I know you've taken on a rabid hydra and didn't so much shed a tear with broken ribs and your hide sliced to pieces. Seeing the ruler's eyes widen in shock, Borealis waved a set of claws dismissively. I've read a lot of books, rare ones. Regardless, now I need to know how much this hurts. Is it worse than that? If it brings you to tears, I know I need to use the maximum dose without question, and won't need to run a scan or test. His voice dropped in volume, enough to grant them a bit of privacy. I need you to drop the mask, even for a moment. Please, how bad is it? Is it worse than that encounter? Celestia's composure didn't change for a moment, but the ruler's sides then shivered. 2 tears traced their way down her cheeks, and the princess nodded once. The mask she wore was cracking and fading for a moment. Genuine fear shone in her violet eyes, prompting the hippogriff to set a reassuring smile on his features. Thank you, Celestia. Maximum dose it is. You'll be alright. One moment. Borealis stepped through the decontamination area after snacking 3 large vials from his bags. He examined a chemistry set, then ignited a flame underneath a vial. The hippogriff poured the 3 matching items into the holding tubes, watching as the purple liquid drained into the bubbling mixture. I only packed a 3/4 dose. Never thought I'd need a full one. He mused. Alright, Celestia, still with me? Borealis called, and saw an alabaster hoof twitch in response. The reason I didn't have the full strength mixture on me is because it degrades remarkably fast. The less concentrated forms are much more stable, which is why I've been able to ship them to your hospitals. Once this is completed, we'll only have a few minutes after this is done to administer it. I'll need your help though, okay? Another twitch, and the hippogriff drummed his claws on the counter as the liquid finally evaporated away. It left a violet powder that seemed to move like a miniature ocean in the flask. Snatching the vial, Borealis was back at Celestia's side in an instant. He pulled out 2 more rather large syringes. One was filled with an orange liquid, and the other appeared to be filled with light gray mist. Now then, I take it your breathing is getting worse? A nod was her reply, the alicorn managing to suppress panic far better than Borealis would have expected from some creature who was having trouble drawing breath. Tough mare. Okay, so these injections will kill the organism in your bloodstream, or at least start the process. What needs to happen first is to eliminate it in your lungs. That is going to be unpleasant, I won't lie to you, but it has to happen. Borealis explained. The dust will feel like you're breathing in some thick fog. I need you to breathe it in as much as you can. A single deep breath will do it. You then need to hold your breath for 10 seconds, and I'm going to hold your muzzle closed to make sure that happens. It will likely hurt worse than anything you've ever felt before as the organism dies off, but then it will be over. A total of 15 seconds. You can handle that, right? A determined but slightly worried nod was her reply, the mare managing to shift a bit more upright. Lads, 2 of you please. I need you to hold her. If she thrashes and breathes out, we'll have to restart it all over again. The doctor instructed, and a pair of legionnaires complied, seeing a nod from Celestia. They restrained the alicorn slightly, holding her to the bed as best as they could. Alright, here we go. Now breathe in deeply, push the pain aside, Borealis instructed, shaking the entire vial out into Celestia's nostrils. The princess's sides shook as she breathed inwards. A few tears sprung to her eyes, and her ribs ignited in agony, every muscle screaming at her to do anything except take in a deep breath. It was only when Borealis clamped his claws over Celestia's mouth and nose did the real pain start. The alicorn thrashed, her chest feeling as though daggers were scraping off the insides of her lungs. Her ribs felt as though they were snapping, the bones pushing inwards towards her heart even as blood thundered in Celestia's ears. A cold sweat broke out across her frame, an acidic pain eating into her throat as bile rose up from her stomach. 1,000 battles held nothing against this. The agony bypassing skin and muscle to burn its way into Celestia's chest. Her heart felt like it was about to thud through her ribs, each beat sending painful threads into her temples. Breathe out. Letting out a wheeze, Celestia flopped onto the bed, black powder leaving her muzzle with every exhale. The pain vanished as quickly as it had arrived. Each cough of dark mist lessened the pressure in her lungs. The large needles that stabbed into her haunches and shoulder were nothing but pinpricks, exhaustion draining the alicorn of any strength. Okay, you can let her go, thank you, Borealis instructed, letting out a sigh as he slumped against the cold wall of the room. It works flawlessly. There will be some residual effects, and I'd recommend you staying here for a time. At least until I'm certain. But you're out of harm's way, at least for now. That black stuff is the dead organism. His words fell on deaf ears. The exhausted Alicorn passed out moments ago, but Borealis glanced to the guards, shrugging his large shoulders as he got up. Well, there you have it. I don't know what legal mumbo-jumbo needs to happen, but she needs to rest for a time, preferably here. But stars above, your medical wing isn't sterile by any means, and introducing a new infection could prove catastrophic until she's stable. I don't know how susceptible alicorns are to reinfection, but I should know within a day or two. On top of that, I don't really know what the after effects could be. But if you could send a message to Princess Luna, I'd appreciate it. One of the Legionnaires disappeared with a pop of magic, another seamlessly taking the unicorn's place. I didn't realize it was like a year or two ever since I last read this story. Like, holy shit. But slowly, I'm gonna try and readjust to the characters a bit. Anywho, let's get on to our splendid donators. Top donators: Jessie Smith, Soul 630, BadassWaffle, Only One Thing, Ceru, Orion, and Caladis. Matchback, JockeTF, Luciisu, Darkside, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Pastel Skies, Halson Wallen, Sword Brother, Mojo, Nomicon, Lyre, Runescythe, Will, Kristen, Wiki, Rice, Janima, Luigi, Chance, Crest, Big Smoke, Bobcat, Murder Princess, Jet, Little Mighty, Soul Symphony, and many more awesome people. Thank you all so much for watching this video and live life to the fullest.